What if you really want to have an electric car, but in the summer you really want to go on a caravan holiday? Then at this point in time, you still have a bit of a problem. Sure, electric cars can tow caravans, but you have to accept that every 150 kilometers or 250 kilometers, if you're lucky, you have to charge your car. Which is not that convenient if you want to go on a holiday to Spain or Italy, especially if the car is full with kids. But there's a solution. This is the Nissan X-Trail E-Power, and this car can fit up to 5 kids because it's a 7-seater, and it can tow up to 1800 kilograms. And yes, it drives electric, but yet it still has a pretty decent range, and you can charge it in just 5 minutes. It almost sounds too good to be true, right? But in fact, this car actually runs on electricity. This car has an electric motor on the front axle, and this particular E-Force version also has a rear electric motor. So this version has 4-wheel drive. And just like a regular electric car, this X-Trail also has a battery pack, but it's a little bit smaller and you cannot charge it. Not at home, not at a fast charger, because this car has a petrol engine that charges the battery. It's a 1.5 petrol engine and it only has one job, generating power. It's just a generator. It doesn't power the wheels, that's what the electric motors are for. It only generates electricity. So that means this car really drives like an electric car. You get linear acceleration, you get instant torque, which means this car is actually pretty fast. It will do 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in about 7 seconds, which is pretty fast for such a big 7-seater. And it's also pretty quiet, but more on that later. But what most people will love about this X-Trail E-Power version is the fact that you can just fuel it up. You don't need to charge it, not at home or not at a fast charger when you're doing a longer holiday trip. You can just fuel it up in 5 minutes and then you got a range of around 600 or 700 kilometers. Like I said in the beginning of the video, this car can tow a pretty big caravan. This particular version is the 7-seater, and this car can tow up to 1650 kilograms, because this car has 2 extra seats, and so you can take 2 extra people, so a little less weight. However, if you take the 5-seater, that car can tow up to 1800 kilograms. Now the X-Trail doesn't have a retractable tow bar, you just get, well, just the single tow bar that you have to install yourself. And the luggage capacity is 585 liters, and I believe that's the same on the 5-seater or the 7-seater. However, on the 5-seater you get some underfloor storage, and here on the 7-seater you don't get that because the seats fold back into the floor. It can be a little bit tricky sometimes to film the backseat area of a car because the gap between the door and the car is sometimes just a little too narrow to put your camera and still have the presenter in shot. However, not on this X-Trail because the back doors open on a 90-degree angle, as you can see, making it really easy to, well, first of all, film the backseat area, but also getting into the car, and also putting a child seat into the car. What is also pretty good here is the room that you get. I got plenty of room for my knees, I got plenty of room for my hat, even though this car has a pretty big panoramic roof eating a little bit into the head space. Now the fit and finish here in the back is also pretty decent. You do get some hard plastic on top of the door panels, but everything else is covered in leather, even the door panels here on the lower part and the armrest in the doors as well. And you can flip down the middle seat if you want to have an armrest or 2 cup holders, and some particular versions of the X-Trail have heated seats here in the back as well. And the controls you can find here below. And there's also some climate controls here and 2 USB ports, a USB-A port and a USB-C port. So the X-Trail is a 7-seater, but all the way in the back here is not a place to be for adults. I can kind of fit behind myself here, but I pushed this seat all the way to the front because you can slide the back seat. And now it is, well, really impossible for anyone to sit here. So conclusion, this is not a place for adults. This is just a place for kids. Now there are some amenities for kids here. They get a cup holder on both sides and there's also some storage space here. But that's it. There are no USB ports all the way back here. Also here at the front, the fit and finish and all the materials feels a little bit up the ladder compared to a Qashqai. Almost the entire dashboard and the door panels are covered in soft materials. And you even get some fake wood on the dashboard and in the center console. And you can get up to 3 screens in the interior. There's an infotainment screen, there's a digital gauge cluster, and there's a head-up display. Now the infotainment system is pretty fast. It's not the fastest system out there, but it's definitely not laggy. And there's also a couple of physical buttons down here, including a physical volume dial, which I always like. There are also a lot of physical dials for the climate controls, which I really like, especially after driving a couple of cars which didn't have them and only had physical buttons on the infotainment screen, which sometimes can be a little bit annoying and hard to adjust. And the X-Trail is pretty much the biggest car that you can buy from Nissan here in Europe. It almost feels like an American car. And it also drives like an American car, if I'm honest. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I actually quite like the way the car drives, because this is a very comfortable car and not a sporty car. And that's exactly how a big SUV like this should drive, in my opinion. It should be a big, comfortable car. And so the suspension setup on this car is very soft, very comfortable, and very laid back and American. And you get these big, almost American-sized seats on this car, which make this car very comfortable to drive. I took this car out to Brussels a couple of days ago, which is a 4-hour drive for me. 4 hours one way, 4 hours back, so around 8 hours. And when I got back, I wanted to drive more in this car because it was so comfortable. But the car has one flaw, or like a minor downside, and that is its fuel economy. You might expect this car to get really good fuel mileage because of its very complex electric powertrain. However, it doesn't. It basically has the same fuel economy as a regular X-Trail, like the mild hybrid version or previous generations of the X-Trail. Because after all, this car has a gas engine, but it is not more efficient than a regular or mild hybrid gas engine. However, the upside is that you get a very nice driving experience, because it really feels like you're driving an electric X-Trail without the downside of having to charge it. And so that's it for this video. If you liked it, hit that like button, and if you want to see more videos like this in the future, hit that subscribe button, and then I'll see you in the next one.